Welcome into this 3-round mock draft for the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that for the past couple of years have came in with a lot of expectations, Chase, but just have not been able to live up to it. Have finished behind the Houston Texans year after year as the CJ Stroud era has kind of taken hold in Houston when the top prospect, the next best thing since Andrew Luck, Trevor Lawerence, we haven't really seen the fruits of that yet or lived up to the hype. Hopefully, with a new head coach and with this upcoming draft class, they can turn around the page and get the most out of Trevor Lawerence. But what are your thoughts here on the current state of the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yeah, since it's all been downhill since the Chargers come back, right? They won the playoff game. Looked like the team was leveling itself back out, and then all of a sudden, Doug Peterson hires his best friend Press Taylor, and that offense takes a step back. The defensive picks that they had don't pan out to be what they were. Like Trayvon Walker is still a really good player, right? The number one overall pick, but he's just Hutchinson has been so much better. Him overshadowed what he's done, right? So it's just kind of picks like that where they have good players just kind of overshadowing by different players that they didn't draft, and it's kind of haunting the Jaguars. So hopefully we can kind of get them to in this mock that we can get the players that will haunt other teams. Like we want to capitalize on our draft picks now instead of just getting okay players.
Yeah, repeated drafts in the top 5 here past several years. Obviously the one outlier where they made the playoffs, right? Outside of that, consistently there, top 5-ish, and nothing really to show for it. You think by now you'd have it figured out, and obviously for a lot of different things that you mentioned, they haven't got it figured out yet. Obviously, notably as well, Trevor Lawerence being injured, so there's still other setbacks and things like that happen playing football. But the team, just from a general standpoint, leaves a lot to be desired. So before we get into the actual draft of it, as we tackle this to see if we can get back to Jaguars, back to being contenders, let's take a look currently at the state post-free agency of where they are at currently, Chase. So go ahead and walk us through the additions and subtractions so far here for the Jaguars.
Yeah, so it's weird that the key additions have all been kind of offensively, right? The biggest one I'd say is Christian Kirk, a guy that was going to potentially get traded, right? Had to trade to the Steelers last season, gets injured. They traded him off this offseason to the Houston Texans, an in division trade there. So maybe Kirk that comes back to bite him, but Kirk is no longer on the team, a guy that kind of changed that passing game, right? They overpaid him, but he kind of played it out. Then another guy that had a really good season a couple years ago for them, Evan Ingram, is no longer with them as well. They released him. The Broncos signing Evan Ingram, and then Josh Reynolds, right, the other wide receiver. The wide receiver room's looking a little bare. They did do something to fix that with an addition being Dyami Brown, a big playoff, gainer, right? They talk about March Madness. We're in that March time period, March Madness gainers, right, for the draft. Dyami Brown was a playoff gainer. He got a nice contract from that, and then the biggest addition, of course, is bringing in Jordan Lewis paying him to make him the highest paid nickel corner in the league. Signing him there from the Cowboys to give them something that they've been missing in that defensive backfield. So that's kind of what's happened with the Jaguars, like a soft reboot to get rid of some of their offensive pieces, maybe looking to the draft to fix that because they didn't really do a lot in the offseason, but also bringing in a cornerback. So they addressed 2 needs, but they created a lot more, and they didn't really address, I think, their biggest need, the free agency. So let's hope that we can today.
Yeah, we're going to do our best here to get the Jacksonville Jaguars back on track. So we're going to go ahead and pull up here our mock draft simulator here. Just as I've noted, it is just rounds 1 through 3 with no trades. So we're locked in here at the top 5 position as far as any and all other draft picks. We'll go ahead and enter the draft, and we'll go ahead and get started, Chase. So here at pick number 5, up early. This is where we're at. So, in realistic, Hashijitsi at number 4, man, I almost just want to quit this. You're cool. Yeah. Quit this mock and go back in and do a different one because that is probably not realistically at all. But either way, most likely the Patriots aren't going to pick a position of need necessarily that the Jaguars have outside of wide receiver. So them picking running back there doesn't throw off too much. Maybe what we could do here at pick number 5. So let's just keep it for the sake of time, Chase. And so where we're at here on the draft board, I think if the draft does somehow go like this, where Abdul Carter drops here at number 5, I think the Jaguars would be completely foolish to not not snag that.
Yeah, I almost want to ignore that because like I mean anything can happen, but I'd be shocked if Abdul Carter falls to the Jags, right? But yeah, I mean obviously Abdul Carter is the pick. I think he's the number 1 player in this draft class. So
Yep, and as well, I mean we know that the Jaguars need help on the defense, although their defense is more. They need more interior.
Yeah.
Though, so even
So Mason, it's like in all honesty, Mason Graham's the pick here because like obviously you draft the best player in the draft class if he falls to you. I mean they honestly they all probably almost trade out of this if Abdul Carter's still there because like I said, Trevon Henderson has posted 2+ seasons and 10+ sacks. Josh Hines Allen has been a monster. I think he just led the league in sacks, right? 17.5. So Abdul Carter doesn't like fit a position in need. What they really need is that guy in the middle, right? Eric Armstead and Devondre Hamilton, I think, the old UNI guy. They're holding it down there. So that's not a great interior. So I mean, I don't know what to do here, right? Abdul Carter's the pick, but Mason Graham's the guy that should be here.
And you know what? Honestly, just because I feel like realistically, I mean, Abdul Carter here at number 5 is not going to happen. I think realistically, maybe I know he's here now, but just trying to be as realistic as possible with PFF being weird. I think maybe we just go Mason Graham here. I think the other pick too would be wide receiver. We have all the wide receivers here. I could see wide receiver being huge, especially because, like you said, with the key departures, all of them were receiving talent. Tight end receivers, they just offloaded. They still have some wide receivers, so it's not necessarily huge. So there's good value they could get in day 2, really early, like a Jaden Higgins type player if he doesn't go in the first. Jalen Noel, or Royal. There's still other things. So I think obviously a talent like Mason Graham, I think get that interior up here up front. I think trying to be as realistic as possible, even though this draft did give us Abdul Carter. I think we still go Mason Graham here.
Yeah, I think I mean in the off chance that Abdul Carter ends up on the Jags come the 24th of April, we'll look like idiots here. But I think Graham's the pick.
Yeah. Okay. I agree. Let's do it. All right. Coming up here now on pick number 36. And we're back where we have addressed the interior defensive line with the top interior lineman here of the class. Mason Graham, great value for us. And now we can address some other needs here. So let's take a look here where we're at. Obviously, any offensive talent is needed. So let's take a look here at the stock of where we're at. Maybe we could even double up on the interior lineman. Derek Harmon is still there. But we can take a look at our receiver. We've got our favorites here. Jaden Higgins, we're a huge fan of. Jalen Lawerence is still there. Kyle Williams, we still got a lot of good players. So I think maybe this is where we dip into. Let's just check time just to see. Elijah Roy is still way too high for that. Mason Taylor is still way too high as far as pick number 2. So I think, if this happens, honestly, I think if Jaden Higgins is here, I think this might be a dream scenario for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're able to take Mason Graham, number 1 interior offensive or defensive lineman, and then Jaden Higgins, who really is a top 5 wide receiver in this class. You can easily argue that. So I think Higgins is the pick.
Yeah. I would like to see maybe Colson Loveland fall down here. That would be a really good pick considering how well Evan Ingram or how much Evan Ingram got used, right? But I don't think you pass up Higgins right here, right? Pairing Higgins with Brian Thomas Jr., one of my favorite rookies last year, right? That would be a dream scenario for Trevor Lawerence, right? That would be insane for him. So yeah, to me, that's where I'm going. Even though maybe that's not the play style they really lost, right? With Christian Kirk, Jaden Higgins coming in there, but I don't think you draft a worse wide receiver to fit your play style when you can mold Jalen Higgins into that play style, if that makes sense, right? So I'm still taking the better prospect and just having them duke it out for who gets to play that X receiver.
Jaden Higgins then?
Yep. I'm all for Higgins.
Let's do it. Alrighty, and now we're back up on the clock on pick number 70 here in round 3. All right, there we go. Okay, so now we're back here on the trade. So we've basically got both sides of the ball. We've got Mason Ingram, Jaden Higgins, and now we have our other picks here. So now let's take a stock where we're at. We've got a wide receiver, we've got a defensive lineman. Now is where we get to kind of take a look at some other spots. We can keep adding depth to the defensive line. We can add depth in the secondary. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. Another thing is, didn't their center? I mean, I don't know centers, and this might be too early, but didn't their center just retire? Or am I just making that up? I thought a center retired, and I thought it was theirs. Now, but clearly he wasn't good enough to make the key departures list. So I'd say this is probably defense, because I don't really, again, I mean, unless maybe if Mason Taylor's still here, maybe a tight end to replace Evan Ingram at third. Defensively, yeah, Mason Taylor is here. I wouldn't hate that.
I wouldn't hate that either. I just think, man, surrounding Trevor Lawerence, like if Trevor Lawerence is that dude, like we've seen flashes of it, we have not seen it yet. Like, let's just give him all the weapons possible that we can. So, like, there's no excuse. Like, let's just get out there. Let's just get out there and do it. I don't see why not, man. I mean, they've got a ton of tight ends. Isn't necessarily a huge need, but a guy like Mason Taylor could come in and grab it. I mean, you got Britton Strange as your starting tight end, which I'm gonna just double check.
But he's not. Yeah, Bretton Strange, and then they signed Johnny Munt.
Yeah,
like those guys aren't Mason Taylor level of tight end here.
No,
and I think tight ends fall off pretty hard after. I think there's a big jump from Loveland and Warren to Taylor, and I think Taylor's like the last guy that I'd be comfortable drafting in these early.
Yeah, I think this is a great spot. Plays. I think this is a great spot for Taylor to go.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad at it.
Let's do it. And we got one more last pick here at pick number 88. And it's coming up here. It's from Minnesota. So let's just take a restock here. So we've got defense, offense. So we've got an interior defensive lineman, shore that up. And we've got some weapons here for Trevor Lawerence. And now I think maybe we could take a look here at some other positions here of need. We could stay on the defensive side of the ball. We think we've addressed the opposite side of the ball. So we could take a look at our defensive backs. We take a look at safeties. Kevin Winston Jr. is still here and available. So that's not a bad pick there at the end of round 3. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done a deep dive into safeties. I like Winston Jr. a lot from the athleticism aspect of Penn State's defense, right? I think he trying to think, was it him or Kobe King that tore their ACL? I don't remember if it was Winston. Does it say?
I haven't seen anything about it, and it doesn't look like anything. Oh, it might be him. He only played 2 games. Played.
Yep, 2. So he did tear his ACL. Yep. All right. So I knew there was a player that did that on Penn State, but I believe that he was an athlete before that, right? His athleticism was huge, and I think he'd be higher if he wasn't had the ACL injury, right? And it was early in the year, so he should fully be back. Their safeties are rough, right? I mean, I think Darnell Savage is still a starting safety for them right now, so I'm not. And as a Packer fan, I love Savage when we drafted him, the potential of Savage, and he just never became anything. So replacing that wouldn't be a bad thing. So yeah, I think the pick is definitely whatever value you have in safety or DB. I think one of those 2 value picks is going to be where you want to play this.
Yeah, let's just lay it even. Yeah.
Yeah. So Winston, Winston would be the value there.
I like that. I mean, because looking at it here,
I would
think I agree. Big Wish is the pick. So let's go ahead and lock it in here. Really solid draft. I think we've got with those 4 picks. I think we really split it down the middle and addressed both sides of the ball really, really well. We'll see if PFF agrees with us, and it does. A- total. So yeah, Mason Graham, Jaden Higgins, Mason Taylor, A-. Wrap it up there. So really good values. Looks like maybe they're saying we reached a little bit as far as the middle rounds. middle 2 picks. But overall, I think this is fantastic. I mean, we bookends, right? We start with defense, sandwich the offense, finish with the defense there. And another thing too is just when we're looking at, Mason Graham, even if Abdul Carter is on the board somehow, I mean, I just think maybe you take a look just overall at what you have. Like defensive end, you already have Josh Allen or what's his new name?
Josh Hines Allen.
Josh Hines Allen. You've got already your other first round pick of Trayvon Walker there. So obviously, they might be stupid to go off of that, but as far as like need, like you don't necessarily need Abdul Carter. You got 2 good defensive ends, and sure up that middle one. So I still think even if Abdul Carter's, I mean, I don't know. It's Abdul Carter, so maybe I'm stupid saying that. But anyway, well, we did it. Obviously, they said it's because we don't believe that he's actually going to be there. We don't obviously going to be there at 5, so we try to make it realistic as possible. Maybe he is still there, but Abdul Carter, but Mason Graham there 5. So I like this. I think really you can't sacrifice everything on defense. So you spend your first round pick on the best defensive player at your position of need, which is a interior defensive line. When we did that, we got Mason Graham, and then now we could focus on getting talent around Trevor Lawerence, right? We just talked about the jettison of all those different players. We come in at high quality players there at those picks, and the back end, a guy with a high ceiling, right? We'll see as he comes back from injury, but a guy with high ceiling like Kevin Winston Jr. So I really like overall what we got here.
Yeah, and even with Abdul Carter, Mason Graham's no slump. Like Mason Graham is a blue chip top 4 player in this draft class. So maybe that he's a position in need. Maybe they do select him over Abdul Carter, even if he is there. Like I wouldn't be shocked to see that. So I like that we picked up Mason Graham instead of Abdul Carter, because that guy is a game wrecker both in the run game and the pass game. So yeah, Jaden Higgins. I mean, I'm just the fantasy point. Like I would fall into the Trevor. I'm a huge Trevor Lawerence. I'm a huge Jags guy, but I'd fall into the Trevor Lawerence trap again in fantasy if he had Brian Thomas and Higgins. Like I would draft him in a heartbeat. I'd reach so hard for Trevor Lawerence. So
there's some good options for sure. And I think maybe too they feel comfortable jettisoning all those other wide receivers just because of the success that Brian Thomas Jr. had in his rookie season, especially doing it with Mac Jones as well, not even with Trevor Lawrence. So it's like, man, if they could put those up numbers with Mac, he can obviously put those numbers up with Trevor. So I think they felt they gave a lot of confidence. I think they gave a lot of confidence to the Jags new general manager who's like 12 to come in and really. Well, I was the head coach.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's
true. To come in and feel comfortable, like cutting off some meat and really going bare offensively and getting rid of some of those weapons. So I think that says a lot about Brian Thomas Jr. as a player, that he gave the confidence to that new regime to kind of split ties with some other players to stick with him. So clear wide receiver 1, Jaden Higgins come in and be a wide receiver 2. I think it complemented well.
Yeah. And the GM coming over from the Rams, right? Drafting a guy that is very close to Aaron Donald in terms of he wins even though he shouldn't, right? He's undersized. He's got small arms. Same thing they said about Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald turned out to be great. I'm not saying that Mason Graham's going to be an Aaron Donald level, but it wouldn't surprise me. But then doing what they did in the FDM picks, where they just surrounded their quarterback with star talent, right? Thomas, Higgins, Taylor. Then they went and grabbed athletes, which the Rams do so well. So very, very, very realistic, I would say, draft for the Jags as well.
Absolutely. Well, you've seen what PFF gave us. Definitely let us know your thoughts in the comments, especially you Jag fans. Did we get it right? Would you have done something different? Let us know your thoughts on this mock draft here for Jacksonville Jaguars. Make sure you check out our other mock drafts and individual mock drafts and our weekly show. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And we will catch you next time here on All Things Football.